Hello there, and welcome to another episode of HomeTech.fm. Jason Griffin here. Very happy to be with you. Joined again by Seth Johnson. Seth, I know you've been busy with the new house that you're building, and I just wanted to start out the show tonight with asking you how things are going there.
Yeah. There's been a lot of curiosity about that, and it's kind of why I wasn't around last week for the interview, because I was lugging a lot of boxes in this place. So I'm set up in my new studio, which is a bedroom with a bunch of bags and boxes and a mattress leaned up against the wall.
Well, you sound fantastic.
Awesome. Well, I guess I can attribute some of that to Comcast, which was a complete nightmare to get set up. I've got to say, I've been through the horror stories with each one of my clients that have to get Comcast, and this was no exception for me. But my problem was I ordered a cable card to be installed into my TiVo.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's what did it. So
the installer, who didn't show up for the 5 to 7:30 p.m. appointment, showed up at 9:30 p.m. without the cable card and got me online that night. No big deal. I got the cable card the next morning. He just drove it by and tossed it in my hand and said, "Hey, here you go, man."
Like from his truck as he was like driving by.
It's a drive by. And then it took till Monday afternoon sometime to actually get all the authorizations and everything done correctly, where I could get HBO. And by that time, I had missed Game of Thrones. So yeah, been real happy.
Oh, it's always an adventure dealing with any cable provider, but I do feel like Comcast is. I feel like I hear an inordinate amount of horror stories about them, but
yeah. Well, I got to give them credit. In some places, they are trying, but there seems like there are some parts of their company that just don't try. Yeah, and that's where the rubber is going to hit the road with everybody. I paid $80 to have a install done that didn't get done by anyone but myself. And I got to say, if there's anybody who has a cable card issue, there is a special number. I'll put it on our show notes to call. And you call this 1-800 number. These people actually know what they're doing, and they knock out any issue you have, which is what I didn't find until Monday.
Gotcha.
So, yep. I'll put it on the show notes, which is HomeTech.fm/shows/60.
Yep, we're up to 60 now. So speaking of this episode, we actually want to kind of dive right in here. We had Brad Hinsey on, and he is from Control 4, and they have a big event coming up basically about a week from tonight as we sit here and record this. So the event is on Wednesday, April 22nd, and we'll get into, of course, all the details about that event during the course of our conversation. I think it sounds like a really interesting event. It's a live stream. Anybody can sign up for it. You just sit down at your computer and watch it. It's not like you actually have to be physically at a location, and they're going to just kind of dive into the value of a smart home and what it means to have an integrated home. And it's called the Smart Living Experience. And I know they've been really trying to get the word out about this event. Sounds like they've been very successful there, getting a lot of good traction. And I'm excited. I'm going to make it a point to sit down and watch this myself.
Yeah, I think it's they're gearing this conversation towards consumers, and I think it's be good supplement to those prosumers or consumers who listen to this show and really like to kind of geek out on the home technology, just to kind of see what a fully bespoke home looks like from what you and I deal with every day, right? I mean, it's definitely not something I would consider outside of luxury right now, but the price points are coming down, and I think you what you do is you if you can't afford a Control 4 system and touchscreens and full video distribution throughout your house, you take some of the ideas and you see what technologies you can find to wedge into your house. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that after this quick interview we had with Brad about what I've done in my house, because budget is definitely a concern.
Yeah.
And so we've got some things to kind of chat about after that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, like you were alluding to, this event is really targeted directly for kind of end users and consumers. And I know we have a number of people who listen to the show that are, fit that segment of the market, but we've also got like you said, a lot of really kind of the hardcore DIY guys, and also definitely our fair share of fellow systems integration professionals. And I think really watching an event like this can be valuable for any of them, because it just kind of like conveying that message, which I think is a very important message these days with the abundance of point solutions on the market. It's very easy to go out and buy a smart thermostat and a couple of smart light switches, but what differentiates that from like a fully integrated system from a company like Control4? And I think that's really the message that they're hoping to get across with this event. So without further ado here, we'll jump into our interview with Brad Hinsey.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for joining us on HomeTech. How's it going?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So Control4 has this big live stream event I've been hearing all about. As a dealer, I got marketing materials and emails, and I've seen on the internet you guys have been pushing it out. And so can you tell us, I guess, when and where this live stream is going to happen?
Yeah, you bet. It's coming up on April 22nd, which is on Wednesday. And we'll be streaming live at 7 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Mountain Time on our website. And the quickest way to get to the landing page is ctrl4.co/livesmart. But you can also just go to our homepage at control4.com, and there's a button right there that will take you to the landing page.
Excellent. I guess you've done one of these in the past, if I remember correctly. Seemed like did it work out fairly well for you?
Yeah, so we did one earlier this year with our dealers, and it worked out really well. We got a lot of really good feedback from the dealers that this was a good way to educate them and to show them all about the new stuff. We're all about trying new things because we want to connect with everybody that's interested in Control4. So we did it with dealers first, and now we're going to expand that out to consumers with this event.
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask that, Brad. It sounds like the previous one you did, I don't know if it was targeted exclusively at dealers and integrators, but in any event, you guys are doing a second one now. Who is your target audience for this upcoming event?
Yeah, so the audience for this event is our consumers, those that would have Control4 in their home. So that they can better understand what the new features are, the new products, and really what does it look like inside of my home. And we'll have a mix of people that have Control4 already, so current customers, but we also have 2/3 of the audience that we've given direct invitations to, our prospects or people that don't have Control4 yet, but they're interested in the technology. So I think we'll have a good mix watching it, but that's who we really had in mind, because the reality is that, when you talk to a dealer or an integrator, the conversation is very different than when you're talking to consumers. And so we are trying to, send that message out to both audiences in a way that's relevant and they'll find interesting.
Yeah, Seth and I know all about that because, as you know, Seth and I both come from the professional systems integration background, but we have listeners who straddle kind of all those different segments of the market. And we have, home technology enthusiasts and everyday consumers and systems integrators all listening to the show. So it's definitely important to kind of cater the message to who you're targeting. I don't know if Seth joined the last one. Me having not seen one of these events before, we'll get into the specifics and sort of the categories that you're going to be covering, but just generally speaking, what does the event look like? What am I watching when I see the event? Are we like walking through somebody's home, or what's kind of the format that I can expect if I sign up?
So that's a really good question, and actually it's a question that we wrestled with for a little while in preparation for this event, and trying to determine the best way to tell this story. Because we wanted to tell it in a format that was really engaging, because, consumers they're dedicating a portion of their day to learn about Control4. We want to make sure that we pay them back with something that's really valuable. And at the end of the day, we determined that, those that are showing up are interested in smart home technology. They're interested in Control 4. So we are unapologetic about talking about the technology itself and showing off the solutions that we have to offer from Control 4. So the format that we ended up landing on is a host that will take you through a home, right? And so this woman walks you through. We've got this beautiful home we shot on location, and she walks us through this home, and she shows us about the various solutions that have been enabled within that home, and she talks about each of them in a different segment. And then you'll see, in B-roll, how the family interacts and what that really looks like. And we have some screen captures. You may have seen them in an email that we sent out about 20 minutes ago, I think, actually. Some screen captures of what that footage looks like. So it's really high production quality. And we're really excited to get this out there because it's a really fun format, and I think it'll be interesting for consumers.
Yeah, and I say, I was part of that at our shop. We just put it up on the big screen and watched the. I think it was ISE. You guys did this, right?
Yeah,
it was the announcements for the new touchscreens and new product you had announced at ISE.
Right.
ISE.
And that format was very different than the format that we've chosen here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was definitely geared towards dealers and
right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are going to talk about. What product specifically Control 4 or ideas, I guess, you're going to cover on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Great. So. First of all, we start off with a conversation about, all the smart things in your home, and having individual products is really nice, but the magic really happens when you can coordinate all of them together. That's when your smart home really becomes brilliant, is the way we talk about it, right? And it creates this new normal within your life. So we tee up the conversation by talking about the challenge of getting everything to work together. And then we dive into some of the specific solutions. First of all, we covered the brand new comfort experience and how you can control the comfort level within your home on several different interfaces, whether it's a touchscreen or a remote or your mobile or even a thermostat directly. And that leads us into a conversation about the new touchscreens that we announced at ISE. And what that means as a dedicated interface for your smart home. And then we move into a conversation about intercom, because when you have touchscreens in your home, it automatically unlocks the ability to communicate with the others in your home via these touchscreens. So we talk about the benefits of an audio-video intercom in your home. And then we move into entertainment, right? This is an area that a lot of people really start. Bringing smart things into their home. So we've got multi-room audio. We talk about the brand new SR260 remote. And then, of course, we also talk about multi-room video and distributing video throughout your home.
Very cool. That's a good list of topics there. And a lot of what we cover here on the show, especially multi-room audio and video, I think that's kind of one of those things that's really hard to conceptually explain on, I guess, what I call this the radio, right? But I think visually you'll have an easier time doing that.
Well, you're telling me that's difficult to talk about, right? We wrestled with those two in particular, frequently, and we think that this is a good way to talk about it, but we're going to continue talking about it in different ways until we find the best way to talk about it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that multi-room audio video kind of stands as one of those examples right now of a technology category in the home that's still kind of the domain of a system from somebody like Control 4 or, of course, some of your competitors in the market, versus going with just like a point solution, standalone kind of DIY type of application. You can go out and buy a smart thermostat or a smart lock, but to really come and do the audio video side and bring it all into a multi-room solution like this is really still the realm of a professionally installed smart home system such as Control 4. Is that kind of something that you guys are trying to convey? I have to imagine that that's sort of the point of this, and you kind of alluded to it earlier in this conversation about just sort of conveying the value of going with a fully integrated solution versus going out and just buying point solutions. And maybe you can just give some general thoughts on that distinction.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, and we do spend a lot of time internally talking about the areas within a smart home and how do we blend those together. And when you plot out all of the smart things that are on the market today, they end up heavily showing. A lot of them show up on the security spectrum, right? And there's several in the comfort, the climate control spectrum. But when you get into that entertainment, you're right. There's kind of a hole missing, and that is plugged in by Control4 and the other systems out there. But we think, and we think that similar to what people are experiencing with a whole pile of remotes on their coffee table. When you get a bunch of point solutions in your home, you end up with a bunch of apps on your phone. And it's really difficult to juggle them together, right? And these point solutions, they offer these novel experiences, right? And they're novel and they're interesting, but they're not necessarily magical. And when you can blend them all together, they become magical. Within your home, you don't naturally have these silos with your family room, and I'm just going to go watch some entertainment, right? And then I go out into the hall and I manage my climate, and then I've got my light switch, right? They're not cordoned off in your home, so why shouldn't they work together technologically? And so we think that there's a really big opportunity, and it's really underserved in the DIY market to blend everything, including entertainment, with lighting and security and comfort and convenience together.
That was a pretty good analogy you had there about remotes on the coffee table, which is one I've used for years. We combine everything down into the universal remote that controls everything. And then having a single app rather than many apps. I mean, that's a pretty good analogy to place on what a control system like Control4 can do for an end user. Just kind of want to touch briefly again on the live stream, and you said you had quite a few people like pre-registered for this. Is it something you have to pre-register for?
No, you don't have to pre-register, but the pre-registration just makes sure that you get a reminder, right when we're streaming live. But yeah, we've seen really good response from consumers. It's always scary when you do something for the first time and you wonder, is anybody going to show up? So we began the invitations just about a week ago or less. And we're starting to see a lot of response for people pre-registering. We expect that we'll see a spike on the day of too, because a lot of us, we're kind of, in the moment. Oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's watch that right now. So if people pre-register, they'll get a reminder. If they haven't pre-registered, they can just show up the day of, 7 p.m. Eastern on April 22nd, and they can just join it live right then. And if they miss it, if they're 10 minutes late or 20 minutes late, they'll be able to start it over and catch it from the beginning as well.
Oh, cool. I was actually going to ask that if there's, if there's people that, for whatever reason aren't able to tune in live, they'll have an opportunity. Will this be up on the website afterwards? I'm imagining where somebody, if they had a conflict of scheduling, could come and watch it later.
Yes, absolutely. But we do have several incentives to keep people, or to get people there all live, right? All at the same time.
Sure.
So we do have some giveaways that we'll be announcing that people can, participate on social and win, things like a Yale lock and then an Apple TV and a Roku and some really cool prizes that way.
Oh, very cool. Well, Brad, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on. We think it's an exciting event. Again, both of us being from the world of professional systems integration, and then, on top of that, just being smart home enthusiasts, we're always excited when we see companies doing innovative things to kind of get the word out there and educate the market about, what it means to have a a really fully integrated smart home. And so we were happy to bring you on and have a quick chat about it. For anybody listening who might want to learn more, maybe get at you with like a follow-up question or two, what would be the best way for them to do that?
They can visit the website. There's information there. You know what? People can email me too. It's, my email is really simple. Well, I guess it's not very simple. It's just bhintze, BHINTZE, at control4.com. So if there's any questions or comments, I'd love to hear about it. You can find me on Twitter too, though I don't post too much about stuff, related to this. I should start doing more of that. But I'd love to hear reactions from whether it's from dealers or consumers, because we want to keep doing things like this that people find interesting.
Definitely. Well, we will also include links to all of this on our show notes at our website, of course, at HomeTech.fm/shows/60. That's 60. Brad, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and we wish you the best of luck with the event.
Thanks a lot, guys. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
And that concludes the interview with Brad. If you're interested in checking out that Control 4 event, I think it'd be a pretty good thing for everybody just to take a look at. It's going to show off some technologies that I get to deal with every day, Jason gets to deal with every day, but not everyone gets to deal with every day. You can take Control 4 as an example and see what they're doing and get excited about where all this home technology is going.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like an exciting event. I would encourage anybody listening to go check it out. And just to kind of drive it home, for me, I think it's really about demonstrating the value of a fully integrated home. And I keep using that term because there is a difference. The term smart home has become very popular now. A lot more people are using it. But what does that really mean? And what are the differences between going out and buying a handful of point solutions versus going out and buying a kind of an overriding or overarching control system that will really tie all of that together into one unified user experience. And I think that's really what this is all about. I know, Seth, we wanted to kind of take this opportunity to finish out this episode talking about some of the buying decisions and the technology decisions that you're currently making in a new home that you, I should say an existing home, new to you, that you bought and you're doing a remodel on. And I think, I look forward to that conversation about, we're going to kind of dive into the lighting control aspect of it and get your thoughts on that. But before we got into that, Seth, I think we wanted to touch on here, I'll kick it over to you. We wanted to touch on our Patreon page a little bit.
Yeah, we got a couple of more patrons. If anyone doesn't know, we've been kind of talking about this last just couple of weeks. It's getting started, and just, it's one of those things. This is where, if you enjoy the show and you enjoy listening to Jason and I talk each week, that this is where you could go, support us and help us cover some of those production costs and monthly costs that it takes to get the show off the ground. You can give just as little as $1 per month, and I think we just haven't talked that much about this. I kind of wanted to touch a little on some of the goals that we had. We were trying to get set up. We have a couple of these, and the first one is getting up a live audio stream for the show.
Yeah, so similar, if anybody listening is familiar with Kickstarter, you can basically set funding levels on Patreon. And what that allows us to do is say, okay, if we get, X number of dollars per month in patrons contributing to the show, we will do this. And so essentially we've set up, I think, 4 or 5 different goals that are each tied to funding levels that, of course, go up as the goals kind of get more ambitious, right? And the first goal that we have right now is to get a live audio stream up and running. Alongside of that, we want to have a chat room where, if there's anybody who listens to the show that would want to kind of engage and interact with us in real time and contribute thoughts to the show, we think that would be really exciting and a lot of fun. And of course, it's one of those things that we've been talking about doing, and we've decided that if people want to get on and kind of help support us, we will get that going. And so people can go check out more information on that specific goal, as well as some of the higher level goals that we have at patreon.com/hometech. And we will include we will include a link to that as well in our show notes at HomeTech.fm.
Yeah, and we definitely want to thank everyone who's taken time to go over to Patreon and sign up and donate $1 or $5, $10.
Yeah,
we really, really do appreciate it. It really does help us move forward. And we really want to get this show kind of more off the ground than it already is, and get that live audio stream up, get a live show going, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of back chat that we do cut out during the edits that I think people would find enjoyable.
Sure. Yeah. And it means a lot. Like you said, we can kind of close out and move on, but I just want to echo what you said. We really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Anybody who can go on and support us, even like you said, as little as $1 a month. Also, if you're listening and you're not able to do that, totally cool. What we are asking is hop over to iTunes and leave us a review. That's another great way that you can help us spread the word and grow the show is to go over to iTunes and leave us a review. So with that, Seth, I think we should jump into the conversation about your home. And I think tonight we really wanted to, I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of different technology decisions, as anybody these days who's buying a home is. But we really wanted to focus tonight on lighting control. And maybe, I think maybe we start out the conversation here for anybody listening who might not be completely familiar with the concept or the idea of lighting control. Maybe spend a couple minutes just kind of walking through what that idea is and some of the different categories that you can go with.
Yeah, I guess lighting control would mean different things to different people. When I first started installing lighting control, I mean, we weren't really doing what I would consider lighting control now. We were just swapping out individual switches and putting in, dimmers and keypads to control multiple dimmers that are there. Now I think I have more of a grasp on the design side of it, 10 years later. Wow.
Hard-earned experience.
Yeah. And I know kind of how things will work, how things will lay out. We've seen like a more mature product hit the market that's really helped out with primarily with me, it's been retrofits, because I'm not in those larger homes like you where, we're doing panelized lighting all that often. Mm-hmm. Most of our jobs, especially through the recession and everything, were all retrofits. So it was all, breaking things down and kind of putting all that in. So I guess let's say...
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll jump in here because I think that most people are probably, the concept of lighting control is fairly simple. You're adding intelligence to your light switches so you can control them and automate them, schedule them, that sort of thing. But like, let's talk about panelized. What does that term mean versus a non-panelized lighting control system?
Yeah, so a panelized lighting system, and again, you're going to have more experience than I do on this, but a panelized lighting system, basically all the loads in your house. And when I say loads, a load is a light, single light or a group of lights that switches from one location. So if you have a switch on the wall, it turns on a group of 4 can lights in the ceiling, or that's one load. And what a panelized system does is you may have let's just start with the kitchen, because that's the best room I can think of that lighting control just can do so much in. Our kitchen has 4 loads in it. The general can lights that are in there. There's under counter lighting. There's lights over the sink, and then I have a 4th one that may go in one day. That will be for like LED tape lights under the counter for toe kick lighting, which just makes all that's there for ambience. It really just looks good, and that's really the only reason to install something like that. So
right.
It's pre-wired. But those 4 loads, if I were to do that with normal wiring, I would have to put 4 switches on the wall in the kitchen for each one of those loads. Mm-hmm. And that's a big 4-gang box. Plus, if there's any 3-ways that those 4 light switches need to be somewhere else, so now I've got all this wall clutter. And so what a panelized lighting system does is it takes all those loads and runs the wires all the way back to a panel in a utility room or a closet somewhere. And there are dimmer modules. I guess there's modules actually purpose-built inside these panels for dimming and switching. And all you end up with is a single gang or a single switch on the wall that has multiple buttons on it where you can control those 4 loads.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you know, the concept is simple. A light needs to turn on, it needs to turn off. It's where that switching happens. And like you alluded to, the real sort of implication being with a panelized system, this becomes very valuable and very important in homes that are larger, have more lighting loads, more complexity in each individual room, obviously just more rooms in general, and also just depending on the design aesthetic and the budget. I mean, if, honestly, panelized lighting for a lot of people is overkill, and it's a little more expensive. It could be significantly more expensive depending on the size of your house. And the real value proposition there for a lot of people, honestly, is it's not worth it. But for the right client, in a certain home where you really want to eliminate that wall clutter, or you've got just a ton of loads in each room, it becomes very important. And I think that's really an important distinction. And I know that you, just from our conversations and what we've talked about on the show, panelized lighting for you, Seth, like it wasn't even really something you gave serious consideration to. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's definitely correct. I mean, I looked at the pricing and said, nope, that's not going to be anywhere near.
and that's coming from a guy who does home technology for a living, so that's, I think, is valuable insight. Like if I were buying a home right now as well, it wouldn't be something that I could afford. However, in a lot of the homes that I work in, it's just a no brainer. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I've worked on homes that had 80 plus loads in the panels, plus all the keypads, which we'll kind of get into this, were hybrid keypads. So they had dimmers built into them, and there were probably another 45 to 50 of those. So you're looking at a house, what's that, 130 loads in a single house?
Oh yeah, easily.
That's insane. But so that's nowhere near that type of house demands a panelized system. There's just no other way to do that right.
Right.
My house, though, where I'm looking at 4 loads in the kitchen, and that's really all I'm looking to hide, a couple, maybe 3 of those. I can do the next best thing, and that is wireless lighting devices, like many companies offer nowadays. What I can do is hide some of those in a closet and kind of emulate the way a panelized lighting system would work. So what I was able to do was to take the lights that weren't like mandatory to have in the room. So the lights over the sink, the toe kick lighting, and the under cabinet lighting. Sorry. And I hid those 3 switches in a closet and ran all the loads back to that location. That simplified the wiring that had to go on in the room. And all I'm left with now is a single load in the kitchen for the main can lights that are in there, which is a single gang switch. And then on the other side of the kitchen, there's a single gang switch for a keypad later on down the road.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. And I've certainly seen clients do that where, it didn't make sense to do a fully panelized system, but there were certain rooms in the house, like the master bedroom or the kitchen, maybe the media room or family room, where for various reasons, they didn't want like a big 4-gang box installed on the wall. So in the adjacent pantry or closet, if you walked in and looked, that's where you would see the 4-gang box. But then, over on the wall, basically they would install like a low voltage keypad that would allow them to have that nice clean look, program some scenes onto there, and control multiple loads, from one keypad. And so that is actually a very, it's a clever way to do it. And if you're thinking of the design for your lighting control in your home as I need to go panelized or not, yeah, that's true. But there's also that middle ground where you can still kind of reap some of the benefits of having a nice clean keypad installation without having big 4 or 5-gang boxes in a lot of your critical rooms.
Right. And there's one more, I guess, level of lighting control that I think it's best that we touch on now and just kind of leave it where it is. But that's the like the Philips Hue type devices, like little lamps that you'd screw in individually. I think those merit, being discussed during the conversation here. But I don't think that those are mature enough products to be considered. And And if I decked out my entire house in Philips Hue, I mean, I think it would be probably considerably more than what I've done with just, some smart dimmers.
Yeah. And that's a great point. So certainly one that people should kind of dig in and research and understand the differences on. But I think, like you said, we'll kind of make that a quick point and move on here. And I think let's talk about, I guess I know you had at least 2 or 3 different lighting control systems that you were considering, right, for the home?
I did. I think I was up to 4 at one point, maybe 5. I was looking at, and we'll just start kind of from the integration side, Lutron Radio Raw 2, which I think maybe they just call it Raw 2 now. Control 4, of course, Control 4 dealer. Lutron Caseta. I know we've talked about that a number of times.
Yep.
And Insteon, which I had a great conversation with Richard Gunter over at the Home On podcast.
Yep.
And he really kind of opened my eyes as to what you could do with Insteon. So I kind of went down that path of looking into these 4 different brands to go with. I looked at many more. Let me just say that. But there are certain requirements that I have that were not going to be met by anything other than those 4 different brands. And Caseta barely squeaked by with with some of the products that they have. First and foremost, I needed a keypad dimmer. I needed keypad dimmers for what I'm doing. Because as I told Richard I think on his show, is that I deleted all my 3-ways. And he kind of said, well, what does that mean, deleted? Like, no, I took them out. I don't want any 3-way lighting in the house. And just kind of to touch on that, 3-way lighting is, say you have a very long hall in your house. By code, you're supposed to have a switch at one end and a switch at the other end. And those 2 lights control the same group of lights in that hallway. And that's a 3-way switch. So what I've done is I've kind of, during the remodel, I had to rip out some of those. It was easier and just made more sense to me. I didn't want to add in any additional boxes or gangs. So what I did was I cheated, and I got up there in the attic and found the wires where they were going, cut them, pulled them back, and made a new fixture, out of where those 3-way lightings were going. So now I have many, many, many more options as to what I can do with the same amount of switches in my wall as the house came with. But that does require me now to purchase a lighting control system to, I wouldn't say be up to code, but to actually finish out the house. I have to have one.
Yeah. And so that right there is going to eliminate, a few of the options. I think kind of diving into each one of those specific options and the pros and the cons would make for an interesting conversation, but is kind of beyond the scope of trying to squeeze it into this episode. So I'm just curious, and I think people listening, I know, I should say here that we have had some great feedback about these conversations, and I know a lot of our listeners, Seth, are very interested in your decisions about what you're doing in your home. I think it's very relevant to people who listen. What is a guy who does this every day for a living? What's he putting in his home? And let's talk. I kind of close this conversation now with what you settled on.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say I think my number one pick. And okay, so let me take one step back, and it's like I'm not the only one who made this decision.
Yes, good point.
There is someone else in the house, and what I did was I actually made some A/B comparisons of different keypads and different switches, and sent them over to the design committee, and she gave
your
some,
wife.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. she gave some very valuable input back on what I thought was cool and looked cool. That may not look cool to some people. So
the design committee.
Yeah. Well, you got to run it by them.
Yeah, you got it.
And well, there's also the finance committee, which I have to get by too. So there's 2 different committees we have to please.
Love
the
it.
same person. But so what we ended up liking the best, and both from a financial point of view and from a design point of view, were actually Insteon. It's a great little product. I haven't used it, so I'm like, I'd hate to say, I totally trust trust Richard.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm one of those people that's like, oh, I have to use this. I have to like touch it and feel it and see it working and figure out the ins and outs. But I think for probably 90% of the people out there, the Insteon is a great product at a great price point. That said, Lutron kind of got cut out because of the way it looked. It is a pretty opinionated system. And I don't think I really like how it looked. My wife did not. And, you know,
interesting.
And I got to say, Lutron is about 10 times the price.
Yeah. And I will say, not to sidetrack the conversation, but Lutron has like, you know, you looked at the Raw 2 and the Caseta line, but then it goes up from there into the HomeWorks systems, and they've got like a billion keypad options and design, you know, very designer friendly options up at that higher end of their product line. But I was surprised to hear you say that about Lutron, but you know, again, comes down to personal preference and also like the systems that we do with Lutron. I'm very used to working with the HomeWorks QS stuff, which is certainly their higher end, primarily panelized based stuff.
Yeah, and if I had the QS system, the Palladium, is that what they're calling the Palladium keypads? Have you seen those things? Those are just
the Palladium. The Palladium is a color, I believe. They got a million different styles.
No. This is the it's like the new keypad that they just came out with. It's got 4 buttons on it. They're backlit. Okay. I'll put a picture in the show notes.
Throw a link up to that. Yeah. It's so hard to keep up. They've got like
a million.
Seriously, they've got a million products.
Yeah. So primarily just looking at the Raw 2 and the Caseta. Caseta was just barely on the line of the functionality that I could handle, but I know Lutron innovates. So I wasn't really worried about, you know, getting locked into something that we're doing. And one of the last things that I have to think about is like, I've got to be able to integrate with whatever product I put in. Caseta, Lutron, Raw 2, Insteon, and Control 4, they're all good to go. What I ended up actually putting in the house is Control 4, though.
Okay.
Honestly, it came down to availability and a time frame for me. I'm very familiar with the product, so it just kind of, and it's what I wired the house for initially.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that, you know, it just came down to it. But I think that as a consumer in today's world, like you have some great options.
You do. Yeah, you definitely do.
And the price range, I mean, it's all over the map. Insteon, of course, is probably on the lower end. Then you get into Caseta and probably Control 4, then Raw 2, I believe, is what I found.
Well, and look, Control 4 is a product that you're familiar with. You're a Control 4 dealer. I've worked at a Control 4 firm before, so I am familiar with their product as well. And at the end of the day, you know, you were intrigued by the Insteon stuff, but Control 4 won out for a variety of reasons. And full disclosure, of course, you being a dealer, it's very easy for you to get the product and you have that background with it. So, you know, naturally that played into the decision. But at the end of the day, that was the product that you felt was the best fit for you. And I think as somebody who's potentially listening, who's shopping for lighting control and weighing out those options, I think where that decision, you know, would become relevant to somebody listening would be if you're a consumer, you know, and you're looking at Control 4 versus Insteon, and they might both be compelling to you. Insteon really, I think by and large, if not exclusively, is like a DIY product. You may be able to, if you look hard and find, you might be able to find somebody in your market that'll come over and help you out and install it. But if you're looking at the Insteon route, you're basically going DIY versus Control 4 if you're not somebody who is comfortable getting in there and working with high voltage or just even doing installation at all doesn't appeal to you and you want to have somebody come in and do it, that's where you would want to go with a solution like Control 4.
Right. And like I said, each one of these products certainly had their strong points. Budget, you know, wasn't the only thing in mind. I mean, each one of them works really well. One of the main things I was looking for was a solid API. Lutron definitely offers that. Insteon seems to offer that right now, and it seems like they're going to get a lot better with, you know, integrating with things like Apple and the HomeKit and everything. So I really wasn't worried about Insteon at all. And then Control 4, unfortunately, it's a little more locked in, but I'm kind of locking myself into a product that I already know and a processor that I can kind of bend to my own will because
you're a guy who's written Control 4 drivers, so I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of wish, in some respects, and maybe this consumer talk that Control 4 is doing, and this is a different tangent, but I kind of wish that more people had access to a product like Control 4, because I think they'd be surprised as what all you can do with it. This isn't meant to be a Control 4 plugging episode, but it is a really compelling product when you take 3 steps back and look at the entire landscape and say, okay, well, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And
definitely,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But I've had good success with it over 10, 11 years now, I guess, of using Control 4. So, your mileage may vary, but these days, as far as lighting control goes, you have some really good options on the market.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's a good place for us to close out. Seth, definitely keep us posted. I know, like I said, we've had great feedback. I know a lot of listeners really enjoy these conversations, and hopefully one of these days within the next year or two, I'll be going through a similar thing. My wife and I are talking about buying at some point. I know that's going to be really interesting to sort of, as somebody who goes out and does this in other people's homes every day, to kind of sit on the other side of that table has got to be sort of eye-opening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were all sorts of things came up with this project that extended our budget well past what we initially thought we would be doing, which, indirectly or more directly came from what budget I had lined up for, things like new TVs and lighting control systems and all this fun stuff that, do I really need it? No, I don't need it at all. I can put a standard switch in and turn the lights on just fine right now. But when I need that lighting control system, I can add that in later. Another thing we got to talk about is wiring and AV stuff. And I had a unique approach to that, and I think that'd be valuable to chat a little bit about on another episode. So
yeah, let's definitely make it a point to hit on that soon. Want to thank everybody listening for tuning in to the Home Tech Podcast. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the episode, certainly check out our Patreon page or hop on over to iTunes, leave us a review. Also, we always love to hear from people. Say, hey, give us some feedback. You can do that at HomeTech.fm/feedback or on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast. So once again, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next week.
All of those links will be in the show notes at hometech.fm/shows/60.
From the top.
Yep. Got to start that one over.